Hello everyone, class is very much in session and it's time to look at last night's Monday Night Raw from New Orleans, Louisiana. And it's going to be just a bloody incredible one because guess what guys, it's a historic night for Monday Night Raw because it was Renee Young's first time as the permanent member of the three-person commentary booth. A historic night for Monday Night Raw, but would the show live up to its historic billing? I guess we'll find out as we take a look at Monday Night Raw. This is graded. So the show started with the big three-man heel team of Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre and Braun Strowman hitting the ring, which was surrounded by pretty much every member of the Raw heel locker room, or the male Raw heel locker room, which is, again, a little bit disappointing that they're still going with this angle, in my opinion. The three main heels in the ring then congratulated everybody around the ring and said, well done lads, you've made a great decision in joining together and standing up to the Shield, and no longer will we stand for the Shield running riot over Monday Night Raw. And then they all individually promised, like, oh, we're going to win at Hell in a Cell. And Braun was like, I'm going to win the Universal Championship. And then the Shield's music hit, and out they came through the crowd, and I thought, well, this is interesting because they're not going to beat up everyone, so what are they going to do? Then the Shield beat up everyone. Basically, they were kind of swamped as they hit the barricade, and then Dean Ambrose brought a bag out, and guess what was inside? Axe handles. So he threw, not the move, not the double-handed smash over the top of the head, actual axe handles, and they used those to decimate just about everyone in the arena, all the wrestlers in the arena, not the fans, bloody hell. But apart from Ziggler, Drew and Braun Strowman, who all fled to the top of the ramp and stood menacingly while the Shield were in the ring with all these bodies around them. And basically, the Shield had essentially taken out a lot of wrestlers and made them look a little bit weak, in my opinion. Like the Authors of Pain. Like the Authors of bloody Pain. Then we headed backstage and Baron Corbin was there confronting the Shield and said, I can't believe you've done this again, you naughty men. And he said, look, you're gonna have to leave now, otherwise I'm gonna have to force you to drop your respective titles, Rollins' IC belt and obviously Roman Reigns' Universal belt, and you'll go to jail for a very long time. And the Shield were like, all right mate. And they like walked off. Roman Reigns stared out some policemen because he's cool and a badass. I don't know if you enjoyed this opening segment, so if you did, look away now. I'm going to give this a C- because I honestly think, as visceral and chaotic as it was and quite a physically exciting opening to Monday Night Raw, I still think it was at too great a cost. It made too many heel wrestlers look weak and just like bit part players in the whole Monday Night Raw story, you know. It's like everyone's serving this whole Shield versus Strowman and the lads angle, and I think it made too many people look weak. Like the Authors of Pain got laid out, Mojo Rawley got laid out somewhere. Adam Pacitti is bloody livid. Then in a little backstage segment, like a pre-taped earlier today segment, we saw the Bellas head into their locker room, and guess who'd spray painted the walls? It was those pesky little tykes from the Riott squad, and Nikki Bella, with not her best promo ever, said, guess I'm gonna sort out the riots later on. That's not how she delivered it, but I can't do it justice. I'd urge you to seek out this clip to see the unique way in which Nikki Bella decided to wrestle Ruby Riott. The match itself was okay, nothing spectacular, but certainly not as bad as, you know, Bree's match last week. It was Nikki Bella versus Ruby Riott, and Nikki won with the Rack Attack 2.0, but Liv Morgan tried to slide in to stop her from hitting it on Ruby Riott, only for Brie Bella to go Bree-ma and pull her out of the ring. That theme tune does weird things to me. Like when I hear Bremo, I feel my ribs tightening a little bit. I'm gonna give this match a straight down the middle, a C, because I think it was straightforward stuff, you know, babyface versus heel, but it was a little bit unenjoyable purely because of the fact that commentary were heavily putting over what bloody legends the Bellas are. And I just think that WWE's willful turning of a blind eye towards the Bellas' actual history in WWE, where they were often the heels and often portrayed as people standing in the way of the women's revolution, I just don't enjoy that now that, you know, the women's revolution is well underway and we've got to suddenly pretend with a bit of revisionist history that the Bellas were all for it and they're great because they're mainstream stars and they've got a TV show and a YouTube channel. A YouTube channel. Never heard the likes of it. Next up, the Authors of Pain, or the AOP as we're now calling them, because I guess the Authors of Pain is just too cool. The AOP with Spud, of course. Drake Maverick at ringside, sorry, that's my British indie wrestling fan coming out of me. But no, he's now known as Drake Maverick, of course. Not only the general manager of 205 Live, but the manager of the AOP was at ringside, and they were facing just two enhancement talent boys. No prizes for guessing who won this match. It was indeed the Authors of Pain. They won with their double smashy powerbomb thing that I can't remember the name of at present. That's not the last chapter, is it? I think that's a different move. But they won with that smashy powerbomb thing. And then that was pretty much it. I'm going to give this a C+, because I think Squash matches are fun, you know, especially against these guys. They were against two pretty small guys, so they could throw them around with ease. But at the same time, I just want them to do something different with the Authors of Pain now. Give them a proper feud, because it feels like they were, you know, defeating jobbers for a while. Then they had a bit of a run or a bit of a storyline or a bit of a feud, but it was against Titus Worldwide. And now it feels like they've taken a step back again. A step back from a feud with Titus Worldwide. But now they're just squashing jobbers again, and I just want to see them get their teeth into something better than squash matches and getting their asses handed to them by the Shield in the opening segment. So yes, I'm giving this a C+, but you know what? This is really reassuring, because the opening segment got a C-, then the first match got a C, and now this gets a C+. So by the end of the show, we're going to be looking at some all-time great Monday Night Raw action in like the history of Monday Night Raw. And we'll see how that goes, yeah? Yeah, we'll see how that goes by the end of the video. Next up, on your knees, dog. It's time for the King of Kings, my boy, my childhood boy, Triple H. So Triple H came down to the ring in his lovely suit, and basically it was one of those segments where he was hyping his upcoming match with The Undertaker in Melbourne at the Super Showdown. Now, Triple H is a great promo, we all know this. Lord knows he's had enough practice over the years, opening every single Monday Night Raw for about 6 years in the mid-2000s. 6 years in the mid-2000s? Is that mathematically correct? I'm not a math teacher. I'm not a teacher. This is all a sham. But the crux of Triple H's promo was the fact that Undertaker has lost something. He's lost his mystique, he's lost his aura. Obviously, he's lost his undefeated WrestleMania streak as well, which Triple H mentioned, and I think tried to take credit for himself. I think he said after my matches with Taker, he was never quite the same. He lost his aura, he lost his mystique, and he lost the streak as well. And for people watching now who don't know the history of Undertaker's streak, for new fans, that sounds like Triple H beat him. But obviously it was Brock Lesnar, so that was a little bit sneaky, Paul. That was a little bit sneaky of you. So yes, it was a good promo. Just one more thing. I don't know if also Undertaker lost his mystique and his streak because he had so much sapped from him by those matches against Triple H at WrestleMania 27, 28, or whether it was because around that sort of time as well, he was getting on towards 50 years old, where, you know, if your body hasn't already started to slow down, it's probably going to, like, at any moment. So I think it was more down to the natural aging process than the fact that Triple H is really solid. But you know what? For the purposes of this, I'm going to believe you, Triple H. I think it was you that basically ended the Undertaker's undefeated streak. Yes, I'm going to believe that. You know what? I'm going to give this a B, because it was nothing more than a basic solo one-man hype promo for a match that I'm not actually particularly excited for. But at the same time, if anyone can hype a pro wrestling match, it's Triple H. He's the master of it. So yeah, this gets a solid B. Next up, we had the Raw Tag Team Champions Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre versus the B Team. B Team, go, go, go. It was their title rematch and they lost. Oh, bless them. Bless the lads, Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. But you know what? This was a pretty standard Raw Tag Team TV match. It was pretty short, well executed. Everything was pretty simple, but also pretty spot on. They did really well with what they had to work with. So yes, the champions retained, the bloody heels of, how dare they crush the dreams of the B Team. And then there was some shenanigans after the match. I'm gonna give this a B-. It was fine, a little bit predictable, and then there were some shenanigans backstage that I didn't really know how to grade, so I kind of lumped it in with this, and through it all, I've given it a B-, because if you didn't see it, backstage was a bit weird. Basically, Baron Corbin confronted Ambrose and Rollins because they jumped Drew and Dolph after the match, and then they got backstage. Corbin was like, I told you, if the Shield came back in, you'd be going to jail. And they went, we're not the Shield, brother. We're just Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. Where's Roman Reigns? We're just two guys having a good time, chilling in the hot tub. Then Seth and Dean brought along their own sergeant, or some, I'm not sure what position he was in the police, but he looked pretty official. He's wearing a shirt and tie, so, ooh. And he said, well, they said, you know what, you're not the only one who can try and send someone to jail. We've got our own bloke. And he thinks he's got a case against you. And Baron Corbin went, well, I think we can sort this out, guys. I think we can smooth this over. Him and Seth Rollins went for a word, and pretty much, you know, he let them back in the building without going to jail. And then Dean Ambrose went, thanks, Mr. Policeman bloke. I will call you next time I wind up in jail. And he walked off, and we saw that the name badge on this guy read G. Ambrose. So he's his dad, or like some sort of relative. It didn't specify, but I like to think it was his dad. Next up, Kevin Owens versus Tyler Breeze, a match I would have been very excited for, but Kevin Owens just jumped Tyler Breeze before the bell and destroyed him and hit the apron powerbomb and everything like that. And you know what, as excited as I would have been to see Breeze versus Owens, I wasn't too annoyed, because if any superstar at the moment has justification for acting like this in a storyline, It's KO. This then basically turned into a Kevin Owens promo segment where he was saying, you know, I was going to quit. It felt almost a little bit like WWE had received a lot of criticism for bringing Kevin Owens back after quitting after just 1 week. And this promo was written to try and sort of justify it or retcon it slightly. See what you think. So I've got some notes here about what Kevin Owens said. He said that Baron Corbin begged him to come back, and he did so on the condition that he's recognised as the Raw MVP and that he's not held accountable for any actions he takes towards his opponents, such as beating up Tyler Breeze before their match. He also tried to justify helping the Shield with their Drew and Dolph and them with their beatdown against the Shield last week, which a lot of people didn't like because he was only just feuding with Braun Strowman and actually got chucked off the side of a steel cage through an announce table by him, and suddenly he's helping him beat up the Shield. And everyone was like, what's going on, Kev? And Kev tried to say something that was probably written for him, like, you know, oh, this was my decision because I too am sick of the Shield. And I was like, I wish that the promo hadn't had that in it because I just want to kind of ignore it, but fair enough for trying to remedy it, I guess. He then finally got to the crux of his new attitude, his new anger, and said there's one man who's at fault for this, and his name is Bobbington Lashley. He didn't say Bobbington, that's just the name that I give Lashley for some reason. I've never quite understood why I did that. But yes, he said there's one man who's at fault, and it's Bobbington Lashley because he injured my best friend, Sami Zayn. And now Kevin Owens is going to get revenge on Bobby Lashley, but he's not, is he? He's going to get beaten by him. He's going to get beaten by him. I'm going to feel sad, very sad indeed. I'm going to give this a B. Kevin Owens is obviously a beast on the microphone, and while I didn't enjoy all the material he was given, especially the Shield stuff and trying to justify that whole mistake, you know what, rarely do you have a KO promo segment that isn't quite enjoyable, so I think a B is a fair grade for it. Next up, the new team of Bobby Roode, Gloria, and Chad Gable against the Ascension. Chad Gable's so good, man. This match was pretty short, but it was just Chad Gable destroying the Ascension with suplexes, really perfect suplexes as well. Then he tagged in Bobby Roode, and then Bobby Roode was about to get the win, and then Gable basically blind tagged himself back in and stole the pinfall from his partner, and it's going to hopefully somewhere down the line lead to one of them turning on the other. Either Gable as like a cocky heel, you know, trying to outshine everyone else even though he's not quite ready, or Roode just snapping and getting sick of Gable stealing his spotlight. I think it should be that way around. I think Bobby Roode needs to be a heel, and Chad Gable could well be the next Daniel Bryan if they let him. He's just that damn good. I'm going to give this a B+. As I mentioned, this wasn't the longest match. It was only about 3 minutes, but at the same time, I'm really enjoying where this is going, and I'm delighted that they've finally found something for both Bobby Roode and for Chad Gable. Next up, another tag team match, this time between Ronda Rousey and Natalya, and Alexa Bliss and Mickie James. This was longer than the previous one, but again, it wasn't the most complex tag match. All the tag matches on Raw this week were pretty standard Raw tag matches, but I have no complaints with this one. It introduced a good story, which was Alexa and Mickie targeting Ronda Rousey's ribs in anticipation for Alexa and Ronda's rematch at Hell in a Cell. It was decent. Ronda got the win on Mickie James. She tapped her out with the wrenching armbar thing that she does, while Alexa Bliss was hiding on the outside of the ring, and that's totally fair enough because obviously Alexa shouldn't be beaten in the run-up to their match, but Mickie James was there to take the fall. And then when Ronda and Natalya were celebrating afterwards, Alexa got in the ring and just booted her in the ribs and ran away again. So pretty good stuff. I was part of a conference call yesterday with Alexa Bliss. Very nervous for it. Obviously, she's a very good wrestler and a very impressive woman on the microphone. So I thought, is she just gonna totally out promo everybody in this conference call, call us all nerds? But no, she was very nice, very polite, and I was introduced to her as Josh the Jobber. No, not Josh the Jobber, just Josh from Cultaholic. And I didn't correct anyone, and I just felt so sad. My heart. Check out what she said in that conference call on Cultaholic.com. But anyway, I'm going to give this match a B+. I thought it was good stuff. I liked that Alexa and Mickie had a strategy going in to weaken Ronda Rousey's ribs ahead of Sunday, so no complaints here. Next up, we had Elias saying who wants to walk with Elias, and guess who wanted to walk with Elias? Mick Foley. 20 years after his historic Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker at King of the Ring 98, Mick Foley was back on Monday Night Raw, and it was just great to see him. It's always great to see Mick Foley. He came into the ring and kind of put over Elias in a way. He said, you know what, you're a great songwriter, love your craft, but you don't have a sincere bone in your body, you dirty, smelly heel. He then revealed that that night when he lost to Undertaker in Hell in a Cell was when he first met Stephanie McMahon, and he's actually just been to see her because he lives near Connecticut, so that's a pretty easy drive for him. He went to see her with one request, which was to be the special guest referee in the Hell in a Cell match between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. I think it's a little bit shoehorned in, but if there's anyone you can shoehorn into a Hell in a Cell match, it's Mick Foley, because yes, I'm delighted he's going to be part of the show. He then said, also, Stephanie gave me a little gift, and it was the opportunity to book one match on tonight's show, and it's going to be Elias next, right now, against Finny Balor. This gets a B+. They're both great promo guys, both Elias and Mick Foley. And yeah, I don't like Mick Foley being shoehorned in, but it's Mick Foley and it's Hell in a Cell. So you can't really complain about that. It's just in the rules. Also, 3 B+ in a row. Sound the alarm. So yes, we had what turned out to be the main event of Monday Night Raw, but there was more after it, so just hold on for a second. But it was Finn Balor versus Elias. Balor actually missed the coup de grace, but actually won with a roll-up, which is always nice to see. Nice to see the occasional roll-up finish. So this gets a B. It was a decent match, but I think the crowd were a little bit tired by this point. So then Braun Strowman hit the ring and he was like, I'm going to call out Roman Reigns. Where is he? And then Roman Reigns' music hit and everyone was like, where's bloody Roman? Can't wait to see him. Where is he? And he was on top of the announce table, holding his belt up high. Him and Braun got into a big fight, and then Roman Samoan dropped him off the announce table into the square of doom on the floor below. Way to ruin Renee Young's first night on the job, Roman, climbing about on her table. You miscreant. You absolute rapscallion. Actually, I can't remember if it was a Samoan drop through the announce table or off the announce table, but either way, it was a pretty exciting spot to close Monday Night Raw. So this segment, on its own, gets a B+, but in the wider context of Raw and the big storylines in the build-up to Hell in a Cell, how did it do? And how did Raw do generally? Let's find out right now. So for me, this Raw gets a B-. I thought it was going to be weaker than that, but then on balance I looked at it and I thought, you know what, there was enough good stuff in there to mask all the issues I have with the opening segment and the whole use of the heel locker room as the underlings of Strowman, Ziggler and McIntyre. I still thought there was enough good stuff on this show. Every single tag match served a purpose, whether it was the champions retaining their belts or Ronda Rousey having her ribs beaten up a little bit before Hell in a Cell, or Chad Gable and Bobby Roode storyline I'm very excited for. Also, we saw Triple H and Mick Foley, who I think were both utilised about as well as they could have been. And we get to see Mick Foley on Sunday, which is going to make Pacitti very happy indeed. So this Raw from New Orleans gets a B-. Decent effort, but I still want it to improve and get on the level of SmackDown. So that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching Graded. I've been your teacher, Jack, from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter if you want, at Jack the Jobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic and check out our Patreon if you want as well, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And if you haven't already, please, please, please do not forget to hit subscribe and to join us.